Yo, shalom, shalom, family. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day to you guys. Greetings from wherever you're listening from around the world. I'd like to welcome you guys back to another episode of the Daily Bread Podcast, a place where we read the Word of Yahuah daily. And I'm your host and your brother, Dalayahu Yasharal. The podcast is brought to you guys by Living for Yahuah Ministry. And we gathered here today, family, to read another chapter. Today we blessed and we're fortunate to be able to be reading Deuteronomy chapter 23. You know, Yahuwah has blessed us. We got we got fresh air in our lungs. You know, we got all activity in our limbs. You know, another opportunity to read the word, meditate on the word, and then go out with focus and have a great day and a great week. Right. So let's get started. Like I said, before we actually start reading, we're gonna jump into our prayer and a recap for whoever may be listening for the first time. What you should know is we're reading Deuteronomy right now, the book of Deuteronomy. Uh, we read Genesis, starting with Adam and Eve. The whole story, the whole book of Genesis, really about the introduction to the family. You know, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes of Yasharal, or 12 sons of Jacob. So that take us into Exodus. You know, we read about going to Egypt, coming out of there. Yahuwah redeemed us in 10 plagues, subsequently gave us the 10 commandments, everything that our interest into the wilderness. And then that lead us into Leviticus, right? We read that already chapter by chapter. Yahuwah went through giving us instructions by the hand of Moses, right? About the tabernacle, all of the ordinances, the offerings to make. We read these things chapter by chapter. Those available on the Daily Bread Podcast, Spotify, chapter by chapter. And that led us to the book of Numbers, right? The fourth book, covering our time in the wilderness, the ups and the downs, all the lessons we learned about how to honor Yahuwah. And that ultimately led us to where we are today, reading the book of Deuteronomy and being in the 40th year in the wilderness, preparing to go into the land, preparing to do everything that Yahuwah has promised. Yeah, man. So that's pretty much it. That's the recap. You know, led us up to 40 years in the wilderness. So Deuteronomy, where we at right now, preparing to go into the promised land, and we're gonna see what we meditate on today. It's the beginning of a new week. So let's get into it, family. We're gonna open up with prayer. Like I said, it's our opportunity to be at one with Yahuwah, supplicate with Elohim. Very important. And we're gonna pray according to the Hebrew custom. Stand up, face the direction of Jerusalem, and then make our prayer. So let's go. Baruch atah Yahuwah, Eloheinu, Hamla Ulam. Our Father who is in the heavens, permit your name to be set apart. Permit your reign to come. Permit your desire to be done on earth as it is in heaven. We come before you today asking that you give us our daily bread. We ask that you forgive us for our sins and our trespasses against your Torah, your commands, as we forgive our debtors. And that you allow us not to be led into trial, but save us and deliver us from the wicked one. For yours is the reign, the power, and the esteem, now forever. These things and more we pray in the name of our Mashiach and Sovereign, Yahusha. Halal Yahuwah, Tudah Yahuwah, Ibarakak Yahuwah, Aman. Aman. So, yeah, man, all praise to Yahuwah for that. With that said, with that done, we could get into our chapter for the day, see what it is that we're gonna be discussing. Chapter 23, Deuteronomy, ESV, verse 1. No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off will enter the assembly of Yahuwah. Whoa. That's a pause right there. So we got to pause. What does that mean? That's why I want to explain this a little bit, because I know this is the reason why sometimes people read the scriptures, it may be a little bit confusing. Because what does this mean? So I think it's important to talk about, they had eunuchs in those days, just like you have a nun or like a person who's supposed to be like, I ain't gonna say Mormon, but like a person that's a monk or something in a monastery. They just totally committed to the spiritual cause. They devoted to one thing in their life. And usually in old times, in again, the time the Bible written, in those days, those persons who would usually be devoted wholly to the Most High, they their testicles cut off. And maybe they did some people by on purpose, some people because of an accident or something, right? But those people were considered like special people. They were like travelers or foreigners. Again, people who, just like Abraham was residing in the people, they left their native land and they were residing around other people, whatever. They became a part of another people nation. And we see these eunuchs throughout scriptures, right? These people devoted to scriptural cause. You see them even in other nations too. I think that was Esther, the book of Esther, or Hadassah. She was Hebrew queen in the Persian rule, but they had the ruler, he had a eunuch over the women, and that was very common in these times. Again, all these nations did that because the king or the person that's in charge, they're not gonna have their most trusted advisor be like another man with testosterone like them. Usually it's one of them people who like wholly devoted to the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna have they can't have their own children. So it's like they all they service and they work and for their life goal is to esteem the name of the king, right? So these eunuchs was very prevalent in ancient times. You know, I ain't gonna say prehistoric times, but back then they had these people devoted to the cause, and that's why Yahuwah say in Isaiah, "My house of prayer my house is gonna be a house of prayer for all people." And they talked about do not let the eunuch say that I'm a dry tree, like we not welcoming the foreigners. So it's a place for these people in the nation of Yasharal, in the kingdom of Yahuwah, right? But this is a specific commandment about the assembly at that time, the tabernacle. Those people was kind of looked at as like how you bring an animal to a sacrifice, but you're not supposed to bring no one with a blemish, no animal that got a poked out eye or their leg broke. Yahuwah don't accept no imperfection. So people with bruised, crushed testicles, or you got your parts that he gave you removed, that's like you in a handicap, you're in a different class, like, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of fly in the face of a lot of stuff that's going on today as far as inclusivity and diversity, and you got to include everybody, but Yahuwah set apart. So it's like these people was not allowed in the assembly. And so just want to explain that for people who may not understand the context about this commandment. So verse 1, I'm going to read it again. No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off will enter the assembly of Yahuwah. No one born of a foreign forbidden union may enter the assembly of Yahuwah, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants may enter the assembly of Yahuwah. No Ammonite or Moabite may enter the assembly of Yahuwah, even to the 10th generation. None of them may enter the assembly of Yahuwah forever. Wow. Very exclusive place, man. Yasharal, not for the Catholics, not for the universal place. It's not for everybody. Set apart. Because they did not meet you with bread and water on the way when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, from Pathor of Mesopotamia to curse you. So he's talking about the Ammonites and the Moabites, why they would never be able to enter the assembly of Yahuwah. Verse 5, but Yahuwah Elohim would not listen to Balaam. Instead, Yahuwah Elohim turned the curse into a blessing for you, because Yahuwah Elohim loved you. You will not seek their peace or their prosperity all your days forever. It's a very important commandment. I heard my teachers and other brothers mention this before, but it's a command just for Yasharal, not to seek the peace or the prosperity of the enemies forever. And I go to as far as understanding our captors and understanding captivity, that we're not supposed to seek what they think is good, but seek Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we lose our culture. We be in captivity, and then we start to gaining it. We want what they want, you know. But Yahuwah say, don't seek their peace or their prosperity for all your days. Don't seek their good. Don't seek their peace forever. So that just means like try not to align with the goals of your enemy, pretty much. That makes sense too. Verse 7. You will not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You will not abhor an Egyptian, because you were a sojourner in his land. Talking about we were sojourners. Children born to them in the 3rd generation may enter the assembly of Yahuwah. And that's very interesting, because Moses actually had children from an Egyptian, I believe. Say one of his wives was Cushite, but his first wife was a Midianite, right? Jethro was his father-in-law. So very interesting. Uncleanness is in the camp. Verse 9. When you are encamped against your enemies, then you will keep yourself from every evil thing. If a man among you becomes unclean because of a nocturnal emission, then he will go outside the camp. He will not come inside the camp. But when the evening comes, he will bathe himself in water, and as the sun sets, he may come inside the camp. You will not have a place outside the camp. You will have a place outside the camp, and you will go out to it. So technically an outhouse. That's exactly the origin of an outhouse. Like, this is a commandment from Yahuwah. And you will have a trowel with your tools. And when you sit down outside, you will dig a hole with it and turn back and cover up your excrement. Because Yahuwah your Elohim walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and give up your enemies before you. Therefore, your camp must be Kadash, so that he may not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you. You will not give up to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. So technically, if you find a runaway slave, don't snitch on him. Don't send him back to his master. That's what would happen in our land. Verse 16. He will dwell with you in your midst in the place that he will choose within one of your towns. Wherever it suits him, you will not wrong him. None of the daughters of Yasharal will be a cult prostitute, and none of the sons of Yasharal will be a cult prostitute. Verse 18, you will not bring the fee of a prostitute or the wages of a dog into the house of Yahuwah your Elohim in payment for any vow, for both of these are an abomination to Yahuwah your Elohim. So you hear that? Yahuwah say he don't want no dirty money, man. Don't give me no dirty money. You will not charge interest on loans to your brother. This one of them financial commandments right here, talking about investing in Yahuwah, man. This is why we created that paradigm, because it's a conversation to be had about finance in the Hebrew community. And this is one of them. We're not supposed to charge interest on loans to each other. And it's a very big deal. You will not charge interest on loans to your brother. Interest on money, interest on food, interest on anything that is lent for interest. You may charge a foreigner interest, but you may not charge your brother interest, that Yahuwah your Elohim may barak you in all that you undertake in the land that you are entering to take possession of it. If you make a vow to Yahuwah your Elohim, you will not delay fulfilling it, for Yahuwah your Elohim will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from vowing, you will not be guilty of sin. You will be careful to do what has passed from your lips. You will be careful to do what passed from your lips. This is why they say it's better to not make a vow than to make a vow and not pay it. You know, that's how you can get in trouble. You got to be careful about everything that passed through your lips. And that's very interesting. It's something to think about for everybody, right? And it's the same thing: a vow, a bet, contract, anything. Be careful what you enter into. For you have voluntarily vowed to Yahuwah your Elohim what you have promised with your mouth. That's the thing about getting into something with Yahuwah. He actually he's giving you the commandment what he told you to do, but any vow, oath, or promise, you making it of yourself. So you gotta know what you're gonna do. Verse 24. If you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you will not put any in your bag. If you go into your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the ears with your hand, but you may not put a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain. It's a great commandment about modesty, right? The more, don't take too much than what you're supposed to. It's okay to eat. Everybody's supposed to eat, man. Everybody's supposed to eat. It should be food for everybody. It may be poor among you, but it shouldn't be nobody going hungry, starving among you. It's food everywhere. Everybody farmers. This is how it should be in an ideal society, right? Everybody should be able to eat, but don't come with your bag trying to take all much. You know what I mean? Don't take too much. So that's why the scriptures again always give us something about modesty, self-control, like it's talking about no foreigners inside the camp. A lot of things to dwell on. I think the most important, we're talking about the interest for our brothers and sisters. That's important. Just how we supposed to be a community, man. So with that note, man, again, if y'all made this far, for the people, I know it's gonna be distributed on Spotify, on podcast, but the ones you listen on YouTube, even on Spotify, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you follow the podcast. If you listen on YouTube, like and subscribe. And also on YouTube, look down to the bottom of the page, check out the ministry branches, follow Invest in Yahuah. We want to grow this investment community inside the Hebrew community, right? And that's what we want to be. We want to have like-minded individuals to work with, invest with. And this commandment is a financial commandment talking about don't lend on interest to our brothers. Imagine we had a group of brothers where you could go to and get a loan without zero interest. Imagine you could give your brother a loan and you get your money back, you know what I'm saying, without interest. And the point is, yeah, you ain't getting no interest, but you helping out your brother, you literally helping to build a nation. And that's the commandment of Yahuah, right? But foreigners, we can charge interest. So as we all grow our wealth and build our wealth, we could make business, right? We could have a bank, basically whatever type of monetary establishment, whatever. You could charge interest to foreigners or whatever, and make investments in general as a group, as a community. But we have access to funding amongst each other. So that's the point, man. That was the whole point of investing in Yahuah, the concept, fostering that investing conversation in the community. So check out Invest in Yahuah page, and yeah, let's continue to read the commandments, but really try to apply what we read. And this daily bread, we're reading the word daily. Subscribe to the podcast, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Shalom, shalom, family. Peace.